First of all, welcome everyone. Thanks for attending today. For anyone that is attending this call for the first time, we've been holding this industry-wide call every month for really any company that wants to participate in the cultivated meat value chain. And the purpose of these calls is really to introduce and welcome different solutions providers into the industry, and with the end goal of establishing new collaborations that can help accelerate R&D and commercialization. So if your group is interested in presenting on a future call, or maybe you're working with a company that could benefit from being on these calls, please feel free to put them in touch with me directly and we can get them added or on the agenda. So just a few housekeeping items from my side. I wanted to let folks know that our research grants program this year is focused on hydrolysates for cultivated meat, and the deadline to apply is 1 month away. So this is for projects that are up to $250,000 budgets over 2-year projects. And if you're interested in this topic, we are holding a meetup for researchers to find potential collaborators for the proposals. And so these events are going to be held next week on April 30th and May 1st. I'll drop in the chat the links to those events in case you want to register or send someone from your company to sort of tune in and eavesdrop on the conversations to see if there might be someone that is exploring an idea that you might be interested in sort of collaborating on. Lastly, I wanted to just remind folks that if you're a company that has previously assembled a safety dossier and you might have an interest in market entry in Thailand, the Thai Food and Drug Administration has assembled draft guidelines for regulatory assessment of cultivated meat, and they're now looking for feedback on these guidelines, and they're also willing to provide support to companies once that process is complete and open to applicants in the coming months. So if you are interested in providing feedback on these guidelines, please refer to the details that we sent out via email on April 9th, and we might send another reminder for that depending on the response that we get. All right, so today we're welcoming Erika, Georget, and Gero Greive from ERIDIA, and they're going to be talking about their end-to-end services that can help you strategize for scale up. So as always, feel free to drop questions in the chat throughout, and we're going to get to them at the halfway point and at the end. So Erika, I will turn it over to you.
Thanks a lot, Elliot, for the introduction. Good. So thank you for having us here today and the chance to present ourselves. So we'll have that session split in 2 chunks. I'll take part of the first part, which is the company introduction. So I'll share more about what ERIDIA is doing as a company and who we are. And in a second part of this introduction or presentation, Gero will step in and will introduce his activities at ERIDIA, and as well have more of a technical deep dive on some of the considerations for cultured meat scale-ups. A couple of words about myself. I'm Managing Director at ERIDIA, background in process engineering. Before that, looking back on 7 years with the Bühler Group, and since 2 years now with ERIDIA, a joint venture of Bühler and ZETA company that I will be introducing now. So jumping right into the matter, maybe with a bit of an outlook, or let's say a historical look onto the different opportunities that have emerged in the last years to produce sustainable foods. I'm not going to speak of the challenges of the food industry. I think this is well known to everyone, and we certainly know it's a tall challenge we have lying ahead of us to fix the food system. But when we look at the solution space that has come towards industrialization, of course, plant-based has been really significantly growing in the food industry as a solution to provide alternative to meat products and other categories like dairy. If we look on the feed side, insect processing has also here made huge steps forward into that industry to upcycle side streams of the agro-food sector and really bring protein and fat in a sustainable way to animal nutrition, thereby also contributing on short-term sustainability goals to decrease the footprint of this food system. And the 2 column on the right, fermentation and cellular agriculture, is what we put under the umbrella bioprocessing. And we see this as a very complementary avenue to produce sustainable foods compared well, let's say together with plant-based as well as insect-based solution. And this is where ERIDIA is having its services focused. So when we talk about fermentation, we talk about biomass fermentation, precision fermentation. This is where most of our focus lies. And cellular agriculture for us encompasses, of course, everything we know about animal cell culture, but also topics related to plant cell cultures, for instance. So this is the realm where we are active. And what drives us, who we are as a company, we are an enabler. So we are not a primary B2B ingredient producer or B2C producer. We are an engineering player supporting actors in this industry to essentially scale their concepts from lab, from pilot into industrial setups, to really help them then fulfill the vision, we say restoring tomorrow, really to decrease pressure on natural resources and produce the foods we love in a much more resource efficient manner and sustainable manner eventually. How we do that, where we think we can support the ecosystem, is through essentially best-in-class bioprocessing solutions that we aim to bring to the ecosystem to help on that scale-up journey. And that's maybe a transition on exactly what we are offering as a support and as a service to the industry. So we are an engineering and project execution service provider for food and feed bioprocessing players. So we serve the sector I've just mentioned before. That's maybe one of the first specificities for us. We are very niche, so to say. So we are active with the players I've named before in the fermentation and cell ag space. Another thing that's a little bit particular about ourselves is the setup. So I've mentioned in the introduction, we are a joint venture, 50% ZETA, 50% Bühler. And with this, we bring over 160 years of combined experience in food and biotech industry. I'll introduce our parent company also briefly, and that will, I think, bring some light into the kind of expertise we bring through ERIDIA to our customers, be it in the upstream process and scalability of cell culture, as well as in the downstream process and transformation of biomass. The type of services we offer range from pretty early stage engagement, we call them consultancies, engineering consultancies with customers needing a sparring partner to lay out their scale-up strategy from a lab process or pilot process, all the way through all the classical stages of engineering, which you may be familiar with, as well as execution management up to site startup. So it's a really end-to-end support we can provide to players in this area, and we work at your pace. So I think that's another aspect. We're not worried by long-term projects. We really can pace our engagement with our customers to also reflect the needs of this industry and the evolution that comes forward in that space. Where have we been active? So I've mentioned we've been incorporated nearly 2 years ago now, so that was June 2022. And we have been meanwhile active with companies in the gaseous fermentation space, producing protein ingredients, fungal fermentation, precision fermentation, primarily geared towards dairy, or cultured meat media production, and finally cultured meat companies themselves. The type of projects we've been doing with our customers in this space have been relating to primarily scale up to pilot or industrial side. So that's mostly in the engineering side of things, and engineering consultancy, as well as support for fundraising. I'll come back to that a little bit afterwards. This is where we can also, for the early stages of engineering, help our customers identify the key metrics of their projects when it comes to scale up in terms of CapEx, OPEX, project timeline, such that they can go and confidently speak to their investors and make sure they raise what they need. Not too much, not too little, but really what they need to realize these projects. And then finally, support on technology and site due diligence. That's an important one for companies that look, for instance, to retrofit sites or integrate their operation in existing assets where other productions are running, for instance, as well as technology due diligence. This is something we also do, supporting VC funds who are looking to invest into the space, or corporates who are looking to invest into the space. We help them run the discussion with their target companies to really evaluate the technical solutions that are brought to them. So that's a bit of a high level helicopter view of the type of activities and reference project we've been doing in the last couple of years. I'll stop maybe briefly on one of the most prominent project that was executed by our consortium. That's the Cultured Hub in Switzerland, which is a piloting facility for cultivated meat that's going to be coming live now in the coming months. The Cultured Hub is essentially over 600 square meters of facility dedicated to cultivated meat, with capacity that will be running up to a couple of thousand liters for companies to come in, test their process. And the goal with this, of course, hopefully spare the need to build an own pilot and directly be able to move into design of larger scale facilities that would bring them closer to commercialization. So we are very, of course, delighted to have such a company in our vicinity in the region. And of course, if this is something that is of interest to you, the Cultured Hub is already taking reservations in the coming months, or 4 slots in the coming months. So if you are interested, reach out to us. We can happily put you in contact with the team and also help you plan the work around such trials, which of course is something that you want to structure in a very efficient manner, that you can leverage the outcome of such piloting work to really directly, effectively design your next stages of scale up. So feel free to reach out to us. How we do this kind of work, I've mentioned it in the introduction. It is very much by building on the up and downstream process know-how of our parent companies, ZETA and Bühler. And I want to take a few minutes to speak about them because they're an important part of who we are and the knowledge we build on. ZETA is an EPCM and equipment manufacturer player for the biopharma sector primarily, with expert know-how in aseptic process design, but also bioreactor manufacturing capabilities in a very cost competitive manner. And ZETA has a wealth of expertise into scaling mammalian cell culture, essentially fermentation process as well. But I would say in the mammalian cell culture space, there is really a lot of knowledge that we can look back on and build on as well in terms of process scale up, which is quite important for the industry, the cultured meat industry, to learn from as well and to adapt. From the Bühler side, we look at, of course, a company active more in the food and feed industry with equipment and processing solution providing activities in the space. I would summarize the activities of the Bühler Group in the food and feed space as one that is transforming biomass in various ingredient or B2C products. So this is, again, a knowledge on the downstream processing side that is really relevant when it comes to thinking about converting biomass into products that consumer may want to consume eventually. So that includes, for instance, in the portfolio technologies such as extrusion, molding and depositing, and similar tools that can be of high interest for this industry to consider once the biomass becomes available in sufficient quantity to start structuring pure or hybrid products. There's also a lot of knowledge base about plant-based protein transformation within the group that, again, for hybrid products can be very interesting. Now, that's the knowledge base on process that we are founded on. And ERIDIA, as a joint venture of these two groups, acts, of course, as a process expert for its customers and as an integrator. What we are not is an equipment manufacturer ourselves, so we do not have a specific portfolio we are attached to. We can collaborate with our parent companies to facilitate access to their portfolio if this portfolio is of interest to you. But by design, we are agnostic in the supply chain. That means we can also work with suppliers of your choice. If you have a selected supplier that you would like to work with, we can also integrate this. So in short, we have our preferred suppliers we can engage with and can recommend to you, but are also very much open to work with anyone else that may be of interest to you. I just want to highlight maybe the expertise of the parent companies also through two key projects, one on each side. Here you see an example from a ZETA reference project in a mammalian cell culture case. As mentioned, this is a biopharma project, but interesting to see here experience for essentially engineering and execution of a project with up to 22 cubic meter of mammalian cell culture. So very large scale culture experience here. These are running assets. This is still in the ground that's operating, and this is a very strong knowledge base that, of course, can be used as a stepping stone and foundation to reflect on which adaptation can be done for the food and feed industry to drive cost competitiveness in this space, but without compromising the OPEX essentially by risking, for instance, contamination issues. So there's a really deep reflection to be made on that topic of OPEX versus CAPEX and how we drive and keep sterility in operation without costs, essentially, that would be not compatible with the food industry. And that's the kind of homework that we do with our customers. So these projects are available for you to check on YouTube at a later stage if you want to know more about them. I won't spend more time on this, but that's, let's say, on the ZETA side. To illustrate a little bit more the philosophy and the input also coming from the Bühler side, I'd like to stop on that specific project. This is an insect processing plant. So you might say, okay, this has nothing to do with cultured meat, and you'd be right. But what is interesting here is the journey that Bühler has been going on as an engineering and equipment and solution provider for the food and feed industry. They have really been collaborating in that space of insect processing with startups, because the industry has been led by startups as well in that space, to help them scale their process from the demonstration level where the industry was, to industrial scale facility, which operate in a cost-effective manner for one of the most cost-challenging industries, which is feed industry. So animal nutrition, certainly when you start competing with soy meal or fish meal, is a very challenging business to come forward with alternative ingredients. And this is what these startups are doing, and that was here the mission for Bühler, really to enable them at scale to deliver this. And that kind of engineering journey and reflection on how do you drive cost in operation for such large scale assets to be competitive in price sensitive industry is exactly the journey that we look to drive forward with the cultured meat industry, leveraging on this know-how and experience. Besides the expertise that I have mentioned in the reference projects I've introduced, we also have access to differentiating technologies. This is just one example. I could also have taken specific examples from the ZETA side. This is an example from the Bühler side, a technology called cellular, which is essentially electric stimulation of cells during cultivation, which can allow increase of cell density, biomass yield, product tighter yield. So a very interesting technology that has been developed and is now gradually coming to become industrialized from the Bühler side, which will be highly relevant to the bioprocessing industry, and which, of course, we can help you integrate in your scale-up journey if you wish to engage with such innovations in the space. So if you also want to have maybe a deeper discussion on this kind of more differentiating and more unique technologies that we can provide access to also here through the joint venture and our parent companies, again, feel free to reach out to us. We'll be happy to have that conversation with you. Now, to the core of the services, these range essentially, can be put into three main type of offering. We support on what we call pre-feasibilities. These are mostly engineering consultancies. They can be short projects looking at technological assessment, TEA design, review of project roadmap, identification of gap analysis on your process, you name it. So that's really a bit of a potpourri of options, and we can review together where your supports are or where your needs are. That's the consultancy level. The second box, covering feasibility study and concept design, this is looking more here at companies that already have a specific project for which they are looking to raise funds. And typically we can help there in early engineering projects to outline the feasibility of the project, budget and timeline estimates, first engineering documents, and then, of course, the project roadmap, such that you can then confidently go to your investors and raise what you need for such projects. The third box is essentially looking more at execution. So the next stage of engineering, basic and detailed design, and then all the way to what would cover the overall let's say execution of the project, where we can support with our partner to help you manage the procurement and execution of your project, and then all the way to commissioning inside startup. This is processed as sequence. Of course, these would be stacked activities, especially when it comes to the third box of execution in order to optimize timelines. But what is important is that each of these activities is in its own available. So you're not married to us because you've done a feasibility study with us. At any point in time, you're free to move forward with us or change partner if this is what you wish to do. So we can really onboard or offboard different points of that journey, depending on your needs and your possibilities as well. These different kind of services we can apply at different scale. Obviously, if you're a lab scale company, we're not scared of that. We actually welcome the early stage engagement. This is where we see we have the option also to help the most to make maybe the right scale up decision, so to say, or avoid certain pitfalls that we have seen in the past, really that cost a lot of time to companies going forward. So really help you design that scale up strategy with engineering in mind. Going forward, pilot or production scale, we can support with all the different services I've introduced as needed. Around piloting, we can also support, if you're going to come to, for instance, use existing assets like the Cultured Hub, we can work around this asset with you to help you design your trials in the most effective way before you move into such an asset, and then really make sure that you operate and run trials leading to results that really help you and put you in the best position to then do the next step of industrial design. So kind of already thinking about the kind of information you will need to provide for an industrial scale design, and helping you design your piloting trials to obtain the answers to these questions. So that's the kind of support we can help you access and work a bit like pieces of a puzzle together. Same goes if you're going to be working with existing assets. So there we can help you assess the feasibility of an existing asset for your process, or the suitability, I should say. All these options are possible. Finally, we have access to piloting facility of our own, and that's also through Bühler Group here, where there's a broad range of existing piloting assets with various unit operations of purification, but also biomass transformation and integration in finished products, for instance, such as extrusion technology, that we can help our customers leverage to improve your process knowledge and essentially move more secure into your design of scale-up. The last point is a soft point, but I think is an important one. We also have a very strong ecosystem of partners, technology partners, among others, beyond our parent companies, that we're very happy to bring together for your benefit. So for us, it has to be a team game. We will have and we will support you with all our capabilities. But if we know of a partner of ours that has suitable capabilities to support you where we cannot, we're more than happy to facilitate these kind of introductions as well, that we can help you move faster forward. So to wrap it up, we act as your partner from the very early stage of your process design and scale up to turnkey ready production facility. And that goes through all the more exotic projects in between, which may be more technically specific on selected unit operations. We bring pretty unique capabilities to integrate upstream and downstream process design with two, let's say, major powerhouses in this space as parent companies behind us. That allows us to really think in terms of cost and quality improvement and optimization, both for CapEx and OpEx, especially when we come to discussions around food safe process and contamination-free processes, that we manage there what needs to be in place in order to have a safe OpEx without crippling your CapEx. And the last point, which is I think really important for an industry where there is not yet a defined winning technology at scale, we're agnostic on the selection of the best equipment. We will not bind you to a portfolio. We're very open. We have our own knowledge base in that space, but we're very open to explore new unit operations and technologies that can enable you to scale in the most competitive manner. So with that, I'd like to come to an end with the first part of this presentation and take a minute here to pause and take any questions.
Thanks, Erika. Gero, I will turn it over to you now.
Also from my side, a warm welcome. My name is Gero. I'm heading the project development department at ERIDIA. I'm a chemical engineer by training and designed and manufactured fermenter and bioreactors during the last 12 years. Meanwhile, my job is to support the startups in their scale-up journey, but also support the larger corporates with technical services, etc. My focus is on the process scalability and product definition, as it is a key for a successful process development. And at its best, we are able to incorporate the scalability already in an early process stage to choose the right path to go. So that is where I'm really focused on while I'm working then with our customers. Having here an example of a cultivated meat production facility. At ERIDIA, we are active in all these areas of the process, like media preparation, cultivation, the downstream and product structuring, energy recovery, recycling strategies, all these topics. But we have also always an eye on the process at its entirety. And starting now a bit more with the technical part, I would like to highlight here the first topic that I'm normally looking at, which is the media preparation of the whole media topic itself. Because we see the trend towards continuous cultivation, which means that already in a smaller scale, the media preparation topic, but also the spent media handling is difficult. And at larger scales, I have to say it will be increasing the complexity of such a plant significantly. So we normally already recommend in smaller scale to test scalable media preparation strategies, as well as using ingredients that are available in industrial amounts with a common grade of purity. So not the pharma part of, it's more the main, let's say the food part, right? The food purity and amount of media and ingredients that we look for. What else? Yeah, the same is valid for media composition, that it is approved as food grade, which helps then afterwards to reduce the complexity in the downstream, I have to say. And media compositions that are less accurate than what you normally achieve in your lab with your lab scale, because otherwise this will also guide you to higher OPEX and later in the industrial scale. We never reach the same accuracy, for example, that you have now in your lab when we talk about producing tons of media than in the industrial scale. The next topic I would like to highlight is then the cultivation process itself. Here, normally the cell cultivation in suspension is, or in microcarriers is beneficial for the reactor design and less complex as cultivations on macrocarriers or scaffolds, which is challenging in the automated seeding strategy and in the harvesting, and then later on really in industrial scale. The complexity of such systems normally has a dramatic influence on the time to market. As an engineer, I have to say that it's not only valid for cell line development, it's really also valid for the mechanical engineering. So designing new reactor concepts, also new concepts in the downstream and in the structuring of the product afterwards, that is a time-intensive step. Another critical point are the physical limitations that normally then limit the cultivation and provide the ideal conditions for the cells that are inside such reactors. To tackle this, we normally go the downstream concept approach. Let me quickly explain a bit what we understand on the downscaling concept. Here on the left side, we see this typical flow pattern for a large-scale cultivator. The gradients are defined by the physical aspects, so mixing time, heat and mass transfer limitations, etc. As Erika already told us, we have experience in designing and executing reactors up to 20 cubics. Based on this and based on our database that is linking bioreactor designs and operation parameters, we can simulate scale up these reactors by using CFD and extrapolating them from your benchtop then to 25 cubic plus. We then support you in the collaboration, as Erika also said at the beginning, with application centers, for example, Cultured Hub, to validate these models. What does it mean? We design a large bioreactor cultivator for the cells, but we have no proof of concept that these conditions are good enough for your cells. So we start then to modify an intermediate scale, let's say a 200, 500 liter reactor. We decrease the performance of such an intermediate reactor and copy also the same mechanical configurations from the large scale reactor towards then the intermediate reactor. For example, we will use the same type of impeller that we used in the large scale reactor than in the intermediate reactors. Also beneficial is this concept then if you think about retrofitting. Time by time we are confronted with the question, can I use my fermenter for cell cultivation? And this concept allows you then to retrofit different vessels towards cell cultivation and reduce the risk of damaging your cells by using the wrong reactor configuration or the wrong CMO site. Or if you have your own asset, then of course it helps you also to retrofit these equipments. Oh, that was too fast. Then let's have a look at the downstream and the product definition. DSP, yeah, that's often handled as a future problem. Less people are aware of. They are really focused on upstream and optimizing the cell cultivation, etc. But this is a critical part of the process design, I have to say, because the equipment is high in capex, and the product needs to be ready then for the target customer, as well as we have to look at how to transport it. Is it an idle way to transport frozen cell slurry from A to B? Is it better directly to produce an B2B or B2C approach in my facility? All these topics we have to look at in defining the real final product then. Another topic we like to discuss is always the water recovery in such systems. Which side streams can be used as process water after we did the filtration? Is there a topic of a contamination? Maybe if we feed it back into the cultivation itself, can we use it for CIP application afterwards, etc. Then if the media is not food grade, it will lead to a significant share of product being lost then during the washing steps that are normally required after harvesting to remove it entirely. And also a lovely question to look at is the disposing of tons of spent media from this continuous cultivation concepts, or how to reuse it for other purposes like for virtualizer or something like that. Something we also look at with our customers is normally to find the key performance indicators for your industrial scale process. I mean, increasing the yield is not always beneficial because the process can become more complex or result in higher OPEX costs afterwards. But how to define these KPIs that influence the cost of the goods at most. We use engineering models then to evaluate them and simulate the whole industry process. I will show you quickly how this works. We start with a TAP, so Technology Analysis Plan. A TAP, which is at least a summary about the topics we looked already in the previous slides, means what are the objectives, what is the final product definition, how good is the database, the quality of assumption being made, maturity and scalability as well. We prepare a high-level block flow diagram of the whole process to identify also the DSP, wastewater, and utility preparation topics. And then based on this TAP, we set up a performance model to size and define the right amount of equipment. And this leads then in an economical analysis with CapEx, OpEx, and visible return of investment outlooks. Then the process modeling, this is a public available process simulation of a cultivated meat process. It is very close to what we normally set up then in such a simulation. It's quite complex, a lot of equipment. What is not shown here is the energy recovering, the wastewater treatment, utility preparations, etc. So these things we add to estimate then the OpEx as precise as possible for the cost of goods sold calculations afterwards. Then this results normally in what we all know as a technical and economic analysis report with a process flow diagram, an equipment list, utility consumptions, CapEx, OpEx figures, etc. But this doesn't give you an idea about what are the KPIs of your process, where I have to look at during my process development, to focus on during my process development. And for this, we do a sensitivity analysis. We use then algorithms, then run thousands of process scenarios, helping us to identify the most influenced parameters and what has happened if these target values will not reach in the future. That means what is the impact on the process economics, right? If we cannot keep this target, is there still a business case or not? Also give you an idea about equipment decisions. Here on the right side, this chart shows us that these 1,000 liter and 2,000 liter reactors are very close to each other when it comes in dollars per gram of the product. So the result of this sensitivity analysis was the customer choose 2 times 1,000 liter reactors instead of 1 2,000 liter reactor, because it was figured out that a 2,000 liter reactor was 2.3 times more energy intensive to operate than 1,000 liter reactor. So this gives also an indication about scale out or scale up strategies, etc. And yeah, with this, I would like, come to the last slide. This is not specifically something now for GEA or process development. It is really more part of another tricky part of your journey. It is a site selection topic here. So keep it in your mind to go deeper in it. It will take another presentation, and it's normally part of a site due diligence process. But quickly, I would like to mention here some topics like the efficient utility management in terms of energy and water supply. Then the efficient waste management that must be integrated early in the process development, because we figured out that also the regulatory standards in this wastewater, public wastewater management sites can influence your process design and your facility design. the consistent access to the high quality raw material is crucial for the efficiency of the cultivation process. And furthermore, the efficient logistics and transportation of raw material, etc., is a very interesting topic. The whole supply chain can slow down your production process and result in loss of sales opportunities if you're not aware of by designing such facilities. Yeah, and with this, I'm coming to the end, and I'd like to thank you for participation and welcoming your questions if there are any.
Great. Well, I know you had a hard stop at the top of the hour, so thank you for taking the time to present. And yeah, hopefully some folks will get in contact with you afterwards to sort of learn more.
Thank you very much for having us.
Thank you.
All right, thanks everyone. We'll see you next month.